probably this council will be improved, but the next one will
Okay.
be fine. Yeah, we know that.
Even if they turn theirs up.
Yeah, we've,
Okay, I'll now call this regular meeting of council to order. If I can ask everyone to please rise for the National Anthem. I'll now ask if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof. Alderman Hessels?
Yeah, on the in-camera matters, we have Wellington Hamlet. I will declare pecuniary interest on that.
Okay, thank you. So tonight we don't have any presentations, and we don't have any public hearings, and we don't have any delegations, which means we don't have any business arising from delegations. But we do have my mayor's remarks, so I don't have a whole lot. I just want to welcome everybody back after the holidays and into this new year, 2016. And some of you already know, but on Sunday, I had Sunday the 4th, that is not true. On Sunday the 10th, we will be holding our annual levy at the Wainfleet restaurant from 2:30 to 4:30. So we are looking forward to hosting a whole whack of people. We hope a lot of people come and visit with us, and everybody's welcome. And we're still trying to stay in keeping with our economic development kind of business retention and expansion theme that we started working on last year. So at the last levy, we held it at the 2x4 to promote our local restaurants, and this year we'll be holding it at the Wainfleet restaurant. So we're looking forward to that. January 13th is the next floodplain committee meeting at the Conservation Authority headquarters, and those meetings are public, so if people want to come and view the meeting and see what's going on, they're more than welcome to. January 14th is the next regional council meeting. January 20th is the next Conservation Authority meeting, and I believe that one is in the morning at Balls Falls, and that's public as well. January 21st is Committee of the Whole at the region, and January 26th is our next council meeting here in Wainfleet. And I just thought I'd remind everybody, because there was a nice little flyer up on our Facebook account, that public skating is every Saturday from 3:30 to 4:30. And now they did such a good job on the ice that you don't have this big step down onto the ice. So I was thrilled when I was there a few weeks ago. So it's a great place to be on a Saturday afternoon. Okay, so that is it for me, and we will move to the adoption of the minutes.
The minutes of the special meeting of council held on December 9th, 2015, the minutes of the special meeting of council held on December 14th, 2015, and the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on December 15th, 2015 be adopted as circulated.
I need a mover and a seconder for those minutes, Alderman Gilmore and Alderman Conk. Are there any errors or omissions or anything? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question on the minutes. All those in favor? And that's carried. Now we'll go into our first staff report.
Planning Staff Report 01 of 2016 regarding a year-end report and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
So we have a mover and a seconder for this report. Moved by Alderman Gilmore, seconded by Alderman Dykstra. Michael, did you want to expand on this briefly? It's basically just a summary of what's been going on this year in the planning department.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, very briefly, it just summarizes the department's priorities for this coming year, which are township-wide community improvement plan, updated development charges background study, and updated development applications towards simplifying them. And I'm happy to answer any questions council has.
Okay, any questions from council regarding the report? Okay, so it's to receive for information, so I will call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. We'll go on to our next report.
Planning Staff Report 2 of 2016 regarding an application for zoning bylaw amendment Z04 2015 and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
I need a mover and a seconder, Alderman Gilmore and Alderman Conk. So Michael, this is just, we had the public meeting, so now we're at this phase. So Alderman Hessels, you had a question.
I know last time that notification clause wasn't put on properties. I'm just asking if it is going to be put on this one.
Through Your Worship, Alderman Hassels, the notification clause was recommended in committee of adjustment. It's not reflected in the decision, I don't believe, so that was a decision of the committee of adjustment. Once the official plan amendment, I'll be bringing it to council for the next meeting. I wasn't able to get it on the agenda for today. At that time, it'll be addressed.
Okay, any further questions? All right, Alderman Gilmore? Oh, did you want to mention about correcting the, okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. My apologies to council. The initial report I submitted that was published contained an error. It contained an error. Well, this one here I have contains an error. It says part 2 will be retained by another party. It's actually going to be Jamie Etling, who is going to be retaining part 2, and the owner of the property is Wayne and Sammy Kozar. So the other parties listed were Harold and John Wolfen. They have no role in this application whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if there aren't any further questions or comments, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so now we are moving on to administrative staff reports.
Administrative Staff Report 01 of 2016 regarding the cancellation, reduction, or refund of realty tax for the 2015 taxation year, application number 8 of 2015, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder, Alderman Dykstra and Alderman Gilmore. Robin, do you want to kind of comment, and then your comments will cover the other two, but we'll still vote on them separate.
Your worship, to all of council. So ASR 1, 2, and 3 are all for tax write-offs. All 3 are for buildings that were demolished for new construction. Very small write-offs. Actually, 2 are for demolition. 1 was a closure of a business that they moved. So all 3 are just so council approves that we can accept the tax suggestion. They wrote down the assessment.
Okay, any questions or comments from council? Alderman Hessels?
I don't think we have an option, do we?
I don't know, I'll defer to the treasurer.
Your worship, to Alderman Hessels, we can always say no. We would just go to appeal, and at this point, MPAC has done comparative, so it would be pretty hard to fight them.
Okay. So seeing no further questions, I will call the question. All those in favor? That's carried, and we'll go to the next one.
Administrative Staff Report 02 of 2016 regarding the cancellation and reduction of or refund of realty tax for the 2015 taxation year, application number 9 of 2015, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted and circulated.
Mover and a seconder, Alderman Gilmore, Alderman Conk, any questions on this one? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried, and we've got the final one.
Administrative Staff Report 3 of 2016 regarding the cancellation, reduction, or refund of realty tax for the 2015 taxation year, application number 10 of 2015, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted and circulated.
Mover and a seconder, Alderman Conk, Alderman Gilmore, all those in favor? And that's carried.
Septic Department Staff Report 01 of 2016 regarding the private well monitoring progress report, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted and circulated.
I need a mover and a seconder for this one, Alderman Conk and Alderman Gilmore. Trevor, do you want to just give it was a really robust report, so I don't know if you want to just give a brief kind of synopsis, and then I'm sure there's going to be questions.
For your worship to council, I'll just go over the brief anticipated outcomes of the study. The first one was to investigate and track the improvement of E. coli and other bacteria and nitrate concentrations in the groundwater. Another outcome was to use DNA sequencing technology to determine potential sources. And then the final one is to highlight the improvement of the groundwater to trigger the larger study done by the region as per the request from Niagara Region Public Health. And overall, I believe we have met those outcomes. It was a successful year of monitoring. There was, you could tell by the results, a significant improvement in the groundwater. However, there are spikes in concentrations of E. coli and the bacteria throughout the year, which may indicate surface impacts. So it's too early to obviously say to lift the boil water advisory, but I think it was a great start, and we accomplished our outcomes to either hand it off to the region to say this is what we accomplished, and also formed very strong partnerships with McMaster University, who could provide additional funding in the future.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So Trevor, can you tell us, you have indicated in the report that McMaster University is interested in continuing. So what is it that we need to do to kind of solidify another partnership for continued testing or whatever?
Your worship to Alderman Gunk. So what McMaster did was they amended their CRD grant with the region to allow the township to acquire. So we paid them $20,000 for their lab cost fees, and the CRD will match whatever we have given them, which is $20,000, plus other additional grants from the province and the federal government, including the NSERC grant, would provide additional resources. So pretty well, all the township has to do is kind of say yes and kind of support McMaster in their writing to acquire those grants.
If I can continue, so if we do that, are they going to continue to test the wells? Are there going to be additional wells tested? Are they expanding the program for us? Just exactly what do you think they might be doing?
Through your worship to Alderman Conk, in the options, the third option is to put together in collaboration with McMaster University a proposed budget, and just to highlight that selecting option 3 wouldn't say for sure that this is the final budget, or that it doesn't say that you have to go with that budget once we propose it to you, or once the McMaster propose it to you. But right now, the staff recommended option, just because of the difficulty in acquiring volunteers and routinely sampling the same wells, it would be recommended to have private wells drilled, have wells drilled that weren't privately owned. They could be on private property with the homeowner's approval, but it wouldn't necessarily require the person sampling it to enter onto their property or into their dwelling, which I had to do throughout the year.
Okay, any other questions? Alderman Hassels.
Okay. So what is the township's portion? Like, what is the budget for the township's portion of this?
Through your worship to Alderman Hassels, just to confirm the township portion from last year or moving forward?
We can take last year's to get a rough idea, I guess.
Sure. Originally, the plan was to provide from the reserves a set amount, but because of the acquiring of the $25,000 grant from the Niagara Water Strategy, that helped offset the cost to the township. So right now, I do have a budget report that will be going to council the next meeting, and currently, the actual budget to date plus the anticipated budget is $46,510, which is about $2,000 less than what the proposed budget was last year. So the $25,000 came from the Niagara Water Strategy, which helped offset all of the costs from McMaster University, and then the rest of the budget came from my time, and which was my time.
So in other words, it cost us $21,000.
Approximately of my time, it cost the township $21,000, yes.
The other thing is, you said it did what you wanted to do, so now that we have that, and going ahead, what is the advantage of keeping it going? Like, unless you're gonna act on things, you can do all these studies, but at the end of the day, if you're not gonna have enforcement or anything else, what's the sense of doing the study?
Through your worship to Alderman Hassels, one, there'd be many positives to continue the study. One would be more information to public health to provide their, to encourage the decision to lift the boil water advisory. There were questions that arose during my study, such as what's the source of potable water. I've noted that a lot of people have switched to cisterns, not only because of the E. coli contamination, but just the general hardness of the groundwater, the calcium, and the iron in the water. People don't want that affecting their appliances and their pipes, so they've switched to cisterns, which actually would limit the risk to homeowners, which I haven't specifically stated in that report because we're not sure the exact number of homeowners that have switched to cisterns, which I think would be an important part to have Dr. Yeager decide to lift the boil water advisory, because there isn't that risk of groundwater.
Well, and I guess going forward, like you say the risk isn't that good, and spending, this $46,000, I'm having a little bit of an issue going forward. The other thing I'd like to say, is this private and confidential, these testings? Because with anything, if there's issues on your property, you don't want it to get into the wrong hands, so.
Through your worship to Alderman Hassels, all the homeowner information is kept confidential. In the tables, the only thing that's is the sample ID. So that's how I know what the properties are, and that I can within staff. So all the homeowner information is kept confidential. There was a portion of the study that sent a water bottle to public health, and then at that time, if that came back positive for E. coli, they would have contacted the homeowner, recommended, and that's a strong point to go on, is they only provide recommendations. And through that, we actually had successfully 2 UV treatment systems installed to help protect those individual homeowners.
Well, you say it's confidential, but by those numbers, I could probably tell you where each of those places are.
Through your worship to Alderman Hassels, are you referring to the sample ID numbers?
So I don't find that too confidential.
Through your worship to Alderman Hassels, I'm just for example, like the general public, that's a random general sample ID. So I mean, someone who knew, I guess, Wainfleet, you could say that that's a certain civic address, but we could change that the way we do the sample ID.
Okay. Any other questions from council members? I did want to note that I was at the region today for committee meetings, and I did speak with Dr. Yeager about this, and I did share the information about how we had discovered that there were more cisterns, I think, than we realized, and also I wanted to kind of reiterate to her the effectiveness of UV lights, because I think way back when, and Alderman can attest to this, that when there was a discussion about UV lights, maybe I'm going to say 7-8 years ago, the theory was that they weren't really effective, but I think you've proven to a certain extent that indeed they are. So I did talk to Dr. Yeager. I didn't know what the outcome would be of this report tonight, but I suggested that moving forward, maybe we could work together to have some sort of education program about that the region would be involved in, and probably the province, because we have reached out to the province too, who was quite impressed with how far we'd come with the septic inspection program. So perhaps maybe we could encourage the use of UV lights. She didn't say too much about lifting the boil water advisory, and I know we've heard, and I don't want to get too much into it tonight, but we have heard a lot of people say the groundwater is coming from all over the place, so you can't really pinpoint it strictly to Wainfleet, even if we did clean everything up perfectly, and I think we've come really far that way, but there's probably still going to be an issue of where this water's coming from, and I know the MPCA is working on, Trevor could speak to it a little bit more, but I know they've identified some issues elsewhere in Niagara. So I'm wondering, like Trevor had mentioned, maybe handing it off, I'm wondering if there's a way. I feel that we've kind of completed probably more than we needed to, and if there's a way that we can kind of hand this over to the region and the MPCA with the information that we've gathered, and even put them in touch with McMaster and have them kind of take this off into that direction. And like I say, I think the UV light thing really impressed me, and I think if a lot of people had those, it would make a big difference as well, because Dr. Yeager did say to me today that she'd be looking at the results post-treatment. So, and I always thought it was pre-treatment. So if everybody was either a cistern or had a UV light or something, then we'd be good. So I don't know if you want to comment further on that. I hope I'm not misinformed.
Your Worship, no, that's great, and actually touch on some things that I would like to add to as well. So one of the benefits of moving forward would be to test the post-treatment, where the McMaster study was looking at the raw groundwater to see the recharge rate of the aquifer, whereas public health isn't interested in the raw groundwater. They're interested in what the public is consuming. And also my hope for the study moving forward is to put Alderman Hessel's mind at ease, was to minimize the financial obligation of the township. So with this CRD grant, and along with the other provincial and federal grants that McMaster is acquiring and could be acquiring, along with the Niagara region putting in from the Niagara Water Strategy, my hope moving forward would be a zero budget from the township, and that was the hope kind of months before, to be able to kind of relieve the financial obligation from the township.
Okay, so I don't know if there are any further, I had another comment for Trevor, but I don't. I want to give council members an opportunity. So would you suggest then, if we were to decide just to go with option one, but to maybe add something to that, to leave it to you to kind of hand that off to them and put them in touch with the proper people, and of course I'd have to be involved, but do you have a suggestion so that it didn't just fall off the rails, but so there'd be some movement forward, but just not from the township?
To your worship, I'm just trying to think of a wording for the option number one. Something maybe along the lines of direct staff to hand off, or to end private well monitoring within the township, but to search for alternative.
Okay, or maybe even something like Alderman Gilmer, you wanted to comment?
Madam Mayor, perhaps we should receive the report for information and defer any action to a later meeting to give Trevor and everybody some time to formulate some wording. That'd be my recommendation, that we defer any action at this point to the later meeting.
Do I have a seconder for that? Alderman Dykstra? And did you wish to speak, or are you just seconding? You don't have to if you don't want to. Okay. Okay, so any discussion then? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, and that's carried. Okay, so thank you, Trevor. Appreciate that. And that was really an informative report. And I forgot to ask you if the clerk will allow. I know you're bringing a report to the next council meeting, but how many? We had the 200 high-risk septic. So how many are outstanding that still need to be dealt with? I meant to ask that during the report. I apologize.
Through your worship, right now the number is approximately 50 properties left, with about 10 of them being vacant, either vacant lots or vacant buildings not being occupied.
Okay, and when do you anticipate that to be wrapped up?
That, to your worship, that report will be coming to council January 26th, and as previous reports stated, the next step would be to stronger enforcement, such as unsafe building orders and refusal of occupancy from especially seasonal properties that are closed up for the winter and moving back in the spring.
Okay, thank you. We'll look forward to that report. So we were still on that report because I need to vote on it as amended. So I didn't get off the mark there. Okay, so we're going to vote on the report as amended. I will call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so now we are moving on to correspondence.
The report of this correspondence to council dated January 5th, 2016, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated. I need a mover and a seconder, Alderman Gilmore and Alderman Dykstra. So we've got the correspondence in front of us, and I don't think there was anything that we had to deal with, but there are a couple that I know there's one I want to talk about. So Alderman Conk, I can read your mind. Would you like to talk about one of them?
Yes, I'd like to address number 1 and number 4. So number 1 is a report from the Ministry of Energy with regards to regional electricity planning. And I'm not quite sure who would be able to answer these questions. Have we applied for the Municipal Energy Plan program? And what can we use that money for, if it's monetary? And are we part of this regional planning initiative?
Through your worship, Alderman Conk, we have completed an energy audit of this focuses on municipal buildings. It doesn't focus on the township as a whole, so all residents. The province requires us right now to report our energy use, natural gas, electricity, and water use on a monthly and annual basis. That has been completed. We're in compliance with the regulations at that point. In terms of this, I was not aware of this municipal energy plan grant. I can certainly follow up on it though and see if there is opportunity.
And number 4, I don't know if any of council have looked at the notice of proposed change. It was in the newspaper a while back. I'm sorry, I'm going to rant right now about this. This has to do with Niagara Region Wind Corporation. Now it's formerly known as FWRNLP. They are asking to change the entire project. The whole 77 turbines, they're asking to be switched out from E101s, E82s, from a height of 135 meters down to 124. That may sound like it's a win, but it really isn't. It does have to do with sound power levels. The province has stated on the EBR registry that in their infinite wisdom, taller turbines are quieter. No, that's not true, but that's what they believe. So if this particular project is allowed to go forward with these changes, which are massive, and they have not submitted documentation for these changes. If this is what they wanted to do, why didn't they ask for that when they were going through their REA process? So when you put up from 135 down to 124, you're actually increasing the sound power levels, which means, if you're not aware of what a sound power level is, that the people who are going to be closest to these turbines and affected by them are going to be listening to over 40 decibels of power, which is against their own rules. So I think, and I'm hoping that council will go along with this, I have drafted a letter to the deputy minister, the assistant deputy minister, and the director of approvals it's a 3-page letter. I've pretty much outlined all the things that are wrong with this particular request for change of the project. We need, as a township, and I'm hoping that we can also send it to West Lincoln and Lincoln for their support, we need to stand up and quit being run over by these people. This is outrageous that this project is asking to change the entire project just because they want to. That's not right. Their approval was for 77 turbines, 6 of them at 135, 6 at 124, and 3 at 135 in heights, different models of turbines. So it doesn't make any sense to me that they may be allowed to do this. And why? They shouldn't be allowed do-overs. I'm sorry. That's exactly what they're asking to do. We know from the Volkswagen scandal that when regulators are trying to enforce a particular technology, there's an incentive for the manufacturers and the companies to cheat. Well, this is what they're doing. They're cheating. So I have the letter that I'm willing to let the clerk have to do that. And I hope that we can send this strongly worded letter and say, no, I'm sorry. You're asking to change this project. It needs to be what has been approved needs to be null and void now, and you need to go back through the process.
Okay, so are we amending this, or this is a separate motion above and beyond the correspondence? Okay, so we'll amend, so you're moving to amend to provide direction to the clerk, and you've already got the letter, to send it to the proper ministries, CC West Lincoln, I'd say CC the region on it too. We can flesh all that out. So, okay, so I need a seconder for that motion. Seconded by Alderman Dykstra. Any questions or discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none. Alderman Hassels.
So, at the end of the day, what do you hope to accomplish? I guess is my question.
At the end of the day, I would hope that the ministry would see the veracity of saying, you didn't submit any of the proper documentation in your approval for what you're asking for, and they're asking to change the whole project. So at the end of the day, I would hope the ministry would say, no, you can't change the project. I mean, we're going to be stuck with them to begin with, but you can't change the project just because.
Okay, all right, if there, Alderman Gilmer.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Con. Are these the 77 that are already mostly up in West Lincoln? Or is there?
They're working on them, but they're not mostly up.
Most of the ones on the south end, at least that I see all the time, are.
They're working on them, yes. Yep. So they're asking to change all of them.
You're going to take them down and modify them?
No, I believe what they're putting up currently are the ones that are all the 68. They're working on the 68 that are already at the 124 meter height. However, they are changing the output from 3 megawatts to 2.9. Okay, so yes, they are modifying those ones, but they want the rest of them to be changed down to 124. And again, just because they're lower doesn't mean that that's better, because it's not.
Okay, so if, Alderman Hessels, you had a follow-up?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's just a little bit of staff time this is gonna take, but I don't wanna get into that, spending a lot of time and money on this.
No, I don't see that. I think Alderman Conk will give Sarah the letter. Sarah will type it out, send it to Alderman Conk, maybe tweak it a little bit if there's anything really mean in there that needs to be taken out, and then it'll just go up. And I think, I agree with you. I mean, if Richard told us what he dealt with on a daily basis, I think you'd be jumping all over this letter, because they have, it's not like dealing with the first company, who I know, we had issues with the first company, but they were respectful of the roads. They came in, they did what they had to do, and then they were out. And this is a whole different company there. I call it kind of the faceless company. I've said that at the MPCA. It's just a big company. I know we have a couple point people that you deal with, but they don't, unfortunately, they don't care. So I don't see this letter hurting anything, because, and it's been verified. I asked a little bit today, and that it will change there are other people concerned. Well, that's where you've been speaking to people from West Lincoln about it, so where the bulk of these are going. So I think this is a good idea. Okay, so having said that, then I will call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, any other correspondence? Perfect, because I'm going to segue into number 6, which ties in with this project. And so I think we all received a copy of this correspondence. So this is another example of the company being difficult, and Richard's done a great job. It's taken up far too much of his time, but he's done a great job in dealing with the company and being, I think, rather assertive, and then also with going out and meeting with property owners and their concerns. So we received this letter just before Christmas, and then it was put on correspondence, so now I've got it. So Richard, did you want to comment? I don't know if you can comment on everything, or I know you were away, but I know Stephanie's here tonight, so I definitely wanted to make mention of it.
Through your worship to council, yes, in fact I did speak with Stephanie today. Your comment on a faceless company is kind of interesting, because yes, it is a different company than was before. It's now become a limited partnership, so there's a lot more people involved. And they seem to take a divide and conquer approach on trying to get what they want done. So we're constantly finding little things and trying to stop them in their tracks before they go the back door type of thing on a lot of areas. The region has since came back on board with everything that they promised the municipality, and they're doing a great job on trying to stop them from doing certain things. In the meantime, they have tried to go in back door for like emergency services and have meetings with the fire chief without notifying me. And so we pretty much stopped a lot of that from happening. But yeah, she does have some very valid concerns. As far as some of the questions on board, I mean, if I did, I would have to do an actual registered search on title of the road when it was given to the township, which, we would have to retain the lawyer and have it all done that way. So I don't know exactly when it was given to the town, but the road allowance, I have seen a copy of the property that's in question, a digital copy of an actual survey that is from the land registry office. So they have done their due diligence in a lot of things. They're not very forthcoming in providing the information a lot of times, because they said that they paid for it, so it's mine, that type of thing. But when we keep pushing and pushing, we do get a lot of results. As far as some of the questions on, like, I noticed like the health issues. I can't speak to the health issues, and we spoke about that today, and that's something that she is pursuing on her own, which, and I encourage her to do that. As far as the changing of the project, yes, it's another thing that's came forth, and there's a whole thick report on, it's a very convoluted document by the time you're finished and you're going, what did I read in the beginning again? And you gotta go back and forth a few times. But I did do that over the Christmas holidays, so I did have some reading to do. And they are changing, like Betty said, the 11 original higher towers, they are changing to a lower tower system. As well as a couple of improvements, road improvements, entrances, they're changing a few of the entrances, etc. So, yeah, I don't know if it's because the new company took over and they're trying to do, get their way rather than the old way. I don't know exactly how they came about doing the whole process, but we are implementing certain other things that will be coming forth to council for future, as far as bylaws, as far as trying to protect the municipal assets. But in a lot of cases, the residents are the ones that suffer. And we do our best to try and fight, but there's only so far we can go, and then that's the problem. You have a road use agreement signed, and they have the protection of the act, and there's only so much we can do without getting ourselves into legal hot water. So I can't answer a lot of the questions, except because I'd have to do a lot of research and we'd have to get legal counsel involved to do it. But the road allowance is what it is. It's on title, registered to the town, and through the road lease agreement, they have the permission to meet, which was forced upon us by the act, basically. So there's not much I can say there, but I mean, supporting residents in their fight. I mean, as far as a letter of backup from council, I mean, I'm like I said, I try to help as much as I can without getting the municipality in hot water as well.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I know you've saved many trees, and there's been a lot of, like I say, this takes up a lot of Richard's time, and you've been a great advocate for the township and trying, doing your best to keep the best interests of the township at top of mind. So we appreciate that. Okay, so any other questions or comments about this piece of correspondence or any other correspondence? Alderman Dykstra.
Through you, Madam Mayor, in Richard's answer there in regards to the correspondence, in regards to the title on the road allowance and whatnot, you're suggesting that we may need some legal counsel opinion on this. Is this a matter that we need to pursue?
Through your worship, to Alderman Dykstra. No, that was just one of the questions that was brought up on the page. And to do an actual legal document, I mean, it is on title and we can research it, and the roll number brings it up as the town ownership. But if you want the actual legal copy, we'd have to have the lawyer go down and actually do the search and everything.
For clarification.
Okay, if there aren't any further questions or comments, we'll vote on the correspondence as amended. So I will call the question. All those in favor, and that's carried. Now we'll move into bylaws.
Following bylaw being now read a first and second time this 5th day of January 2016. Bylaw number 1, 2016, being a bylaw pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, revised statutes of Ontario 1990, to amend zoning bylaw number 34 of 2014 of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet with respect to those lands forming part of Lot 12, Concession 1, in the Township of Wainfleet, known municipally as 11274 Golf Course Road.
Okay, mover and seconder for that, Alderman Gilmore and Alderman Conk. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, and that's carried.
The following bylaw being now read a third time and finally passed this 5th day of January 2016. Bylaw number 1 of 2016, being a bylaw pursuant to the provisions of Section 34 of the Planning Act, revised statutes of Ontario 1990, to amend zoning bylaw number 34 of 2015 of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet with respect to those lands forming part of Lot 12, Concession 1 in the Township of Wainfleet, known municipally as 11274 Golf Course.
So I need a mover and a seconder for that, Alderman Conk and Alderman Dykstra. Alderman Hessels.
I'm just wondering how come every time we're always doing the 3 readings in one night. That used to be a thing that you did do just so you had that extra 2 or 3 weeks if there were any questions. So I see it seems to be a regular thing we're doing.
I kind of had a feeling you'd ask that question, and I'm gonna defer to Michael on that, because I think it's a timing, the last couple times it's been a timing issue, but I'll have you speak to that.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Alderman Hassels. It has been a timing issue previously. The rezoning to agricultural purposes only is a condition of severance, and that the severance, as a condition, must be satisfied within 1 year of the severance being granted. That's part of it. Also, in consideration of these, in previous times, council has not had significant questions about APO zonings, if I may use that term. And I thought it was a low risk to request council to pass it one evening. If council wishes, in the future, I can certainly remove that recommendation.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, and that's carried. So now we'll move into notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion tonight? Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, I will be bringing a notice of motion at next council with regards to, again, turbines and a request by Wind Concerns Ontario to partner with them.
Okay, I think the clerk has noted that. So, any other notices of motion? Seeing none, then we'll move into our proclamations. We have one proclamation for Crime Stoppers tonight.
Whereas Crime Stoppers of Niagara, a citizen volunteer managed charity since 1985, has for 30+ years served the region of Niagara and the citizens of Wainfleet with their volunteer efforts solely for the purpose of sustaining and raising the quality of life in Niagara with its continued efforts for a safer Niagara community. And whereas the Township of Wainfleet thanks the Board of Directors of Crime Stoppers of Niagara, past, present, and future, for their dedication, now therefore, the Township of Wainfleet does hereby proclaim January 1st to 31st, 2016, and every January in perpetuity, Crime Stoppers of Niagara Month.
Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder for the proclamation. Moved by Alderman Gilmore, seconded by Alderman Conk. All those in favor? That's carried. And while we're talking about Crime Stoppers, we don't have as much of a problem with illegal dumping as West Lincoln and other municipalities do, but we still have issues with it. And Public Works in the region have partnered with Crime Stoppers, and they're working. I can't remember exactly all the details, but it's an easier way for people to report any kind of illegal dumping. So I know a lot that came through Public Works today, and a lot of us from the rural municipalities were pleased to see that. So like I say, I don't think we have it quite as much, but it is a problem in the rural areas. So it's a good partnership. So that just reminded me. Okay, so we will move into other business. Does anybody have any other business? Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the Safety Committee met yesterday afternoon, and we are going to need another ad asking for citizens to step into the committee if anyone's interested. Our chair would like to step down. He's no longer interested in being on the committee. And we have had another committee member has moved out of the Township of Wainfleet, so he needs to be replaced. So there will be a recommendation coming forward. I'm just kind of giving you a heads up.
That's it? That's all you got? Wow. Guess we just came back from holidays. Any other business? Alderman Hassels?
I guess we had an opportunity to have some discussions with some ministers, so if there's for good roads. So if there's anybody in council that has any thoughts or ideas or any ministers that they would like us to speak to, we'd be open to that. I myself am going, and I think the mayor's going too, so I guess if there's some real issues you have and you want us to bring to their attention, we'd be open to whatever you have.
And you were thinking
Well, last year I met with Minister Leo and about the neonicotinoids, and I kind of brought the wind turbines into the whole thing too, and it was a good meeting. I kind of like to go back with the neonicotinoids. I'd also like the wetlands with the M&R. I have some real issues with how they are declaring wetlands and how much control they have, so that's another issue personally, I guess, well, not personally, but for everybody, but that I have a little more knowledge of. So those are a couple, and if you could add to that, I'd be willing to take any information you have.
Okay, thank you. Any other business? I just wanted to mention that we need to switch it. I don't know if I should have asked you this yesterday, switch that date in March, because neither myself nor the, oh, it's May, I'm sorry. Neither myself nor the deputy mayor will be, so I don't know if we should do that now while we have everybody, or, so yeah, we're gonna have to move that May meeting. And while we're looking at that too, I was going to suggest, we've been having some larger galleries lately that and I was asked tonight if we had paper agendas. And years ago, we used to have agendas, and then somewhere along the way, that just kind of stopped happening. So I thought maybe even if we just had, 10 for the gallery, that would probably be sufficient. So I just thought I'd mention that. So date-wise, do we just want to move it to the following, or? So do we want to do the 3rd or the 17th? The 17th could very well, would that be after a long weekend? No. Sure, to the 3rd? Okay. Let's, does that work for everybody else? Oh, but, yeah, I'll be here. Okay, yeah, is everybody okay with that? Do we need a motion to, okay, so I need a mover and a seconder for that, Alderman Hessels and Alderman Dykstra. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, so any other business? No, seeing none, then I need a motion to move into closed session to meet for an item under section 239 of the Municipal Act regarding litigation or potential litigation and advice subject to counselor-client privilege, official plan, OMB settlement, confidential staff report, PSR 003-2016, and then the adoption of the minutes from the in-camera sessions on, let me see here, December 9th, December 14th, and December 15th. So I need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Gilmore. All those in favor? That's carried. And the gallery's more than welcome to stay until we get back. I don't think we're going to be long, but I'm not 100% sure.
His wife.
Whatever that is.
Cookies? Thank you. Wow, they're good. Oh, thanks.
Yes, I'm sort of in my succession plan to run in 2018, so